I'm Samaya. Wonderful to meet you all. Thank you, Miriam Walker-Khan, for having me here to host what is a very special podcast. We're celebrating the World Cup, but we're also celebrating the stories that football helps us to tell. Now, this is the first ever live Brown Girl Sport podcast. Can we get a big woo? Woo! Woo, woo! And we are beyond excited that we get to do it in collaboration with Stand and Be Counted, the UK's first theatre company of Sanctuary, and of course, in Sheffield, the home of football. Woo! So today I'm joined by 4 fantastic panellists, and we're going to be talking about everything: identity, representation, and what the World Cup means to communities who often watch from the sidelines, but always have been part of the story. I'm Smay Mughal. I'm a broadcaster. I present The Breakfast Show on BBC Radio Nottingham. Thank you. Been up since 4 o'clock in the morning, so if I'm not making sense, then that is my get out. I'm also the creator of Brown Gal Can't Swim, which is a podcast that I founded 2022, 2023. I really should know this. But ultimately, it followed my journey of learning to swim. Rebecca Adlington, who is a 4-time Olympic medalist, set me the challenge of learning in 8 weeks and then attempting a 500-metre open water challenge. It was terrifying, but actually that's what brought me into the world of sport, and more importantly for today, that's what introduced me to Miriam Walker-Khan and the fantastic work that she does to elevate the stories and the individuals within sport, especially from the South Asian community and the female community. So I could not feel more honoured to be sitting next to a legend. That is me, and I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves. Miriam, who are you?
Good question. First of all, thank you so much for presenting. We are very, very lucky to have you here. I'm Miriam. I'm a sports journalist and reporter, and I'm from Sheffield. And this is where I found sport and football. I started playing football at school, got kicked because I wasn't wearing shin pads and had to have an operation, and then stuck to athletics for the 15 years after that because no one could kick me in my own lane. So yeah, I got into sport that way and started, I guess, doing sports journalism when I was at uni, and then worked at BBC Sport for 6 years after that, Sky Sports for the past 3 years, and now I'm freelance. And I think I can say this because today I signed a contract. I'm about to go and do a 3-year job at CBS Galaxy in New York. So.
Big moves, huge moves. Okay, where should we go next? Let's go to Zahir Rashid from Desi Ballers.
Hello, everyone. I'm from London. We don't normally do these kind of things in the open because it's a bit tough to do. So this is a nice way to do these kind of podcasts really in the open. So my name is Z. I'm from London, like I said, and I run a platform called Desi Ballers, which is celebrating its 16th year. And it's just going down behind me. Fantastic.
That's when you said 16 years. I was like, what?
Yeah, even the banner can't believe it. 16 years. And the whole idea of the platform is to profile and uplift the South Asian community in football. Recently, I took a team out to America to compete for $1 million in North Carolina. As you can see, I'm here, so we didn't win the $1 million, but hopefully we're going to go again next year. And the whole premise of the platform is to not only profile and chronicle stories, but create opportunities and take part in events like this where we can tell our stories and make sure it doesn't get forgotten. So that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic, brilliant stuff. Okay, we have Amar Shah from Among Good People, who I feel if you were sticking around a moment ago, you might know all about him. But for anyone who doesn't know, and our fantastic podcast listeners to the Brown Girl Sport podcast, tell us a little bit about you.
Hey everyone, my name is Amar. I have a streetwear brand called Among Good People, which is inspired by my lifelong love of football and streetwear. I've been going for about 6 years now. The idea is to combine streetwear, football and charity. And in that time, I've raised £13,000 for multiple charities around the world. And just recently, I wrote a book called Looking for Legends, which, if you were here earlier, you would have heard about, which is basically my, challenge to make my childhood dream come true and meet football heroes of the past.
Fantastic. And Layla Benares, over to you. I've literally sat next to a legend. It's fantastic.
Hi, I'm Layla Benares, and I play football. There. Okay. I play football for Pakistan internationally. I'm currently a free agent, so I don't have a club, but internationally I play for Pakistan, and I've been playing football ever since I can remember, since I was about 4. So yeah, I'm just a footballer, to be honest.
Just a footballer. Sorry, just a footballer for Pakistan, smashing life. Okay, we're going to get into that a little bit later. At first, though, Miriam, our wonderful podcast listeners will know all about Brown Girl Sport, what it is, but our fabulous guests here at the Peace Gardens may not know the ins and outs of what it is. So tell us, why did you create it?
I guess I set up Brown Girl Sport because working in the media, I wasn't seeing South Asian sports stories being told, and I was pitching them. I was being told they were too niche, too unusual, not interesting enough for, I guess, mainstream sport audiences. So I created it because I was bored of it. I was sick of it, and I was like, these are such incredible stories. I think these two have heard me say this about 100 times, but they are really stories of defiance as well, I think, a lot of the time. And in my opinion, a lot more interesting than half of the stuff we read online. So I just wanted to make sure people knew about those women. And I also know, like, there's so many people in different spots of the media who do tell those stories but struggle because of how hard it's made to tell them. So we've got actually a good friend called Dev Trahan who does so much incredible work for South Asian football in particular. But yeah, there was nothing really that focused on women in every sport that wasn't just football. And as an athletics girly, I wanted to create it.
Do you feel now the landscape since Brown Girl Sport, or perhaps in the last couple of years, has changed a little bit, though, in relation to being able to tell those stories? Because you've got a fantastic following, you've been able to achieve some brilliant things, so that in itself surely shows that there is an appetite for those stories.
Yeah, massively. Even just the people we partner with. So we've worked recently with Chelsea Football Club quite a lot, and that's incredible, to be able to say that. But we also have loads of journalists following the page, so I'm seeing them watching what we're doing, and then slowly I feel like more South Asian women's stories are being told and recognised. So I don't want to say it's all because of Brown Girl Sport. There's lots of people that have built that kind of foundation, but it definitely helps.
Well, as a journalist, you do, from personal experience, you are trying to find those pages where you can find those interesting stories. So if journalists are following you, you're clearly doing something right. And importantly, those stories are travelling further, which wasn't necessarily the case prior Brown Girl Sport. So props to you. Well done. Okay, Zahib, over to you. You created Desi Ballers 16 years ago. Why did you set it up?
16 years ago. Sorry. So I started my career 20 years ago now. When I graduated from university, and the big thing back then was newspapers in terms of media. We didn't have the internet as what it is right now, and social media definitely wasn't a thing then. So the only place to get your news was either going to be in the newspaper, magazines, or it's going to be on TV. But again, like Miriam was saying, our stories weren't being told. We weren't seeing stories of South Asians in sport, in any walks of life. So the whole idea was, when I joined the industry, I joined a newspaper called Eastern Eye, and I joined as a sports reporter. And that newspaper catered towards the South Asian market. And the first question you get asked is, do Asians even play sport? Are they interested, and where are you going to find these stories? And what I was finding, I was going deeper and deeper into the topic area. I was finding a lot of interesting stories that are happening both at mainstream, at national level, but also at grassroots. But when you're working for a newspaper that's a weekly, there's only a finite number of people going to read it, and also the news just changes so quickly that by the time you've written it in the newspaper, it's already old news, and we were a weekly. So as the world is changing, I used to speak to my editors and the publishers all the time about, let's go into the online market, YouTube is kicking off, let's create content on those kind of new platforms. And the big thing they talked about was cost. It's going to cost us money. And I was like, no, it's a free platform. I mean, social media is still free. So if anyone trying to get into content creation now, it's free. You just sign up and you post. And then you get better as you're learning. There's no cost of entry there. But they're talking about 20 years ago, the thought process with certain people, even from my community, was it's going to cost money, and I don't think there's going to be an appetite for it. And I'm quite stubborn, so I was like, I actually believe this could work. So it took me 2-3 years to then think about going there on my own and creating a platform where I could actually put the stories without any kind of control, any kind of restrictions, and tell it as it should be told, but in real time, using these new platforms. That's why in 2010, I created the Facebook page and a blog, and they went into Facebook groups, which were massive at the time, and then Instagram and now TikTok. And I just go where the noise is. Wherever I can take the story, that's where I take it. But a lot of the time as well, it's not just about documenting, it's about what can you do to actually help your community.
Yeah.
Because it's all good talking about the reasons why something hasn't happened, or why there's a lack of numbers, or why you're not seeing visibility. But once you understand the problems, you then have to look at the solutions. And then I realized that there's not enough solution-oriented people either in this space. Everyone talks a good game, but to make things happen, you have to move forward with it. And I have a good friend here who's sitting in the front row here. He's not one for publicity, but for the last 20 years that I've known him, he's been all about action. He's been someone who's inspiring because of what he does selflessly to help the community that people aren't going to know about. And there's a lot there. So I'm a bit more like, I don't mind being front-facing and telling these stories, but also being action-orientated. So I thought I'm going to use my platform not only to tell stories, but create opportunities. And like I said, like last month, we were in America trying to win $1 million with an all-South Asian team. We're going to go again next year, hopefully. But yeah, for me, the platform was created to fill a need that people didn't think there was a need for.
Yeah,
and now they believe it's vital.
And also, really, to be able to elevate stories like yours, Layla. So tell us a little bit about that season at Lewis Women FC and playing for Pakistan. Right, okay, we have to sort something out here. Are we saying Pakistan or are we saying Pakistan?
We're in the north. We're in the north.
Because so when I'm on the radio, I say, it really depends actually. So I'll say Pakistan, like, I'm Pakistani for the record, but you're wondering why is she labouring this point.
I think we all are.
Yeah, we actually all, which is why I'm asking this panel for context. I'm not just being like, how do I say my country? But, you know, I would say Pakistan. Pakistan's in the bad. You played for Pakistan. What was that experience like, and how did you get into football?
So it all started basically in the garden. I have an older brother who plays football, so I basically just had to, you know, have a ball smashed at me from the age of 4. So that's where it really started. And then I joined an academy, which is Birmingham, if you couldn't tell from my accent. So I played for Blues and went through the academy system, and then signed my first pro last year at Lewis, and I had to move away from home.
How was that?
It was interesting, it was different, it was hard at the beginning, but I found my feet and I started playing a lot and I started to enjoy myself. But Pakistan came about basically at the age of 14. They reached out to me and I thought I was a bit too young. A couple of years later, they were having the Asian Cup qualifiers in Indonesia, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I got my passport, which took a while, got all that sorted, and then before I knew it, I was on a plane to Pakistan, going to play in the Asian Cup qualifiers against Indonesia, Kyrgyzstan, Chinese Taipei, and then just a few months ago we went to Ivory Coast in the FIFA series. So yeah, I feel like it's all happened so quick, it's such a whirlwind, but honestly it's been such an honour to represent Pakistan, something that means so much to me. Being half Pakistani, being able to represent that is something that, you know, it's hard to explain.
Can we just get a round of applause for that story, please? An absolutely phenomenal achievement at such a young age as well. I wonder what it's like for you to hear us journalists and people that are trying to elevate and spotlight stories like yours. What's that like for you from an athlete's point of view, to see that there are people that are trying to do their bit, so stories like yours exist out there in the world for people to appreciate and see?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for everyone for sharing the stories of, you know, the people that are really underrepresented, because I think when I was younger and I saw stories like this about, you know, Pakistani girls, Muslim girls, South Asian girls in the media, I think I would have been more confident and I would have been like, they can do it, so can I, rather than being the one that has to do it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just so grateful for them, you know, telling our stories.
Well, I know, Miriam, that's something that is important to you, and I think you mentioned it a moment ago, something that honestly, we're saying some amazing things, which is why it keeps falling down. It's like, sorry, you said what? And for those listening on the podcast, I'm talking about the banner that's just fallen down. I realised out of context that will make absolutely no sense. Now, 3 years ago, Brown Girl Sport produced an award-winning podcast series called 25%. Where did that idea come from, and what does that title mean?
So 25% came from the fact that 25% of the world is in South Asia, like the world's population, plus the diaspora, so it's actually way more. And still, we haven't had a South Asian team play at a FIFA World Cup. So I wanted to explore why that was. And I did it whilst I was in Australia for the Women's World Cup, but it was men and women's. And it's crazy because like we're going to be here for years to come probably still saying that. I don't think I'd love to think the next World Cup, Women's World Cup, we would have a South Asian team. No pressure, Layla. But I think it's something that we'll be saying for a long time, sadly, because of, various reasons. But I wanted to talk about why, and I think it's nice to kind of revisit it a few years on, because I think so much of the time, these are stories, especially in the mainstream media, like we said, that they'll be told maybe every 5-6 years, and then you'll pitch it to an editor and they'll be like, oh no, we did that 6-7 years ago, we're not doing that again. But actually we need to revisit these stories and see what progress has been in the past 2-3 years. And it's great to be here today and to hear Layla in particular, because she's been experiencing that and South Asian football for the past year, so we know what it's like. We know we can bring those stories back home and use them to inspire kids in the UK as well.
And ultimately, without that inspiration, and like Layla saying, seeing people like you doing that thing, we won't have a team because people won't feel like they can actually do it, right? Amar, I wonder from your point of view why that absence matters. Is it just about football? Is it bigger than that? What's your perspective on it all?
I think the thing with it is there's lots of layers, and I probably say that a lot whenever I start answering something. But where there is that absence, there's obviously that feeling that you don't belong as much. But then I think the way we get through that is we find other people to be inspired by. It could be someone who plays for your favorite domestic club, for example, and seeing that person progress onto the world stage, and you'll follow with them. So for example, I've got Manchester United as my team. Watching Bruno Fernandes now at the World Cup feels a little like he's a part of me because he's from my team. So we kind of find, I guess, an alternative route in terms of support. But actually having someone who represents your community and where you're from and your heritage, it just hits differently. And there's a sense of pride that you would get more from actually finding an alternative person to support or team to support.
So we might not be in a position right now where we have a whole team, but there are athletes of Pakistani heritage competing right now on the world stage at the World Cup. And Miriam, I know that you've interviewed somebody that was doing that very thing yesterday, which was such a moment in history. Expand.
Yeah, so Zidan Iqbal, who's Mancunian, he grew up playing in the United Academy and then actually played the first, I think he was the first Pakistani heritage person to play in the Champions League. Full stop. Z will, he's shaking his head. Second. Who's the first?
A player called Gaya Zahid.
Okay, but the first British Pakistani, right?
Yes, correct.
Someone will tell me on this in the vicinity. So he's half Iraqi, half Pakistani, and he played for Iraq last night against Norway in the World Cup. So Zidane is also, he's called Zidane, which is in itself iconic, objectively. Like, you have to be good if your name's Zidane. But I remember actually in 2021 watching him start that come on off the bench on that United game, and I just was so emotional because it's like a bit of you, like he said, a bit of you is on that pitch. And I think people take for granted representation, but if you are a British South Asian person and you love sport, it is really, really, really rare and really hard to find on that level, So it hits so hard and it makes us so proud. And also Zidane is just a sweetheart. He's a lovely guy. He is a joy to interview. He's just I feel like he's like my work little brother. I probably shouldn't say that, but to be able to watch his career, I'm just so proud. So, yeah.
You know what? You hit on such an interesting point and a truthful point about emotion. Just before this event, a few of us were at Miriam's flat having some curry. Gorgeous, really nice. And then we got on to a conversation about the Olympic Games and what it was like to be Pakistani and to be in the Stade de France. I was there covering the Olympics for the BBC, and to watch someone from your heritage home, from the motherland, break an Olympic record by chucking a a javelin to the high heavens. And honestly, like, and I felt it, this is going to sound kind of weird now, Layla, but I felt it when I was looking at your Instagram profile, and also when I was looking at your Instagram profile, which spotlights all of this fantastic talent. And you do feel like, well, at least I do, like, I feel like I'm going to cry. It's such a, I thought, like, what's wrong with me? I don't even know these people, but the way that I'm behaving, it's like I'm their mother. Like, that is not okay. But at the same time, I think it just goes to show how visceral that feeling is, to see people like you in spaces that you can't comprehend is possible. And that in itself is a problem, that we can't comprehend the possibility of people like us being in that space, but we are, and you are, and it's wonderful to see. But it is so difficult to keep yourself together, woman, you know?
Mate, I took it to the extreme. I got Arshad Nadim's Olympic record tattooed on my arm,
Yeah.
which then led to loads of other crazy numbers. But yeah, especially for Arshad Nadim, like, athletics was my sport growing up, and an event like javelin, which does not get the credit it deserves. But on top of that, when actually we were both in Paris for the Olympics, and when I was reporting on that, I was doing a live hit, and the Eiffel Tower started sparkling behind me as I said his name. It was crazy. But when you are told by so many people, oh, South Asians don't play football, they're too small, they're too weak, and then a guy who was throwing a javelin, throwing an Olympic record in an event that is like the epitome of physical strength for so many people, it's so rock star. It hits so hard. So yeah, I had to get it tattooed, which is a bit dramatic and extreme, but I'm a Scorpio, so.
Well, we're here for it. That's another level. Right, I feel like a moment ago you were helping Miriam with the stats. So if anyone knows how many Pakistani heritage or even South Asian heritage players there are in the World Cup right now, let's start with Pakistan heritage. It's over to you, Seb. What have we got?
Should we do a crowd participation and find out if anyone knows?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well,
How
let's
many
go. How many do you think they're in total in terms of South Asian heritage players in the World Cup right now?
Shout at us.
It's one that you can count on one hand, so you just need to show fingers.
Okay, one hand, we've got 8 over there. Okay, 4, 5. You don't count because I know that you know.
Winner was 5. Winner was 5. Yeah, so I think this is the first time in known history. I guess it's all down to knowledge as well and find information out. But this is the first time in the World Cup we've had at least 5 players of South Asian heritage representing on the big stage, and they're all playing for different countries. So we've got Tassin Mohammed playing for Qatar. We've had Sarpreet Singh, who made his debut for New Zealand at the World Cup. Zidane Iqbal we spoke about as well. My mind's gone blank. Nishan Velupillay as well for Australia, who came off the bench. And then tonight we'll probably see Samu Mutasami play for Congo. And it's quite interesting naming those countries because you don't really associate all of them with South Asia in any sense, but it just shows how far and wide the diaspora has spread, but also the fact that we can actually, as people from the diaspora, as myself, like my family's from Pakistan, but I'm born and brought up in England. And I've got family in England, in America. And we're across the diaspora, but we have such affinity back to our kind of homeland, or I guess a land where our parents are from and grandparents are from, that it just makes it extra proud that people have gone out into the world and are still proud of their heritage and representing the big stage. So for me, it's a massive thing. You're talking about Zidane, watching him play yesterday, I'm not going to lie. I've been following his career for a few years, and I would rather he was playing for Pakistan. Yeah, to be honest. And I've told him that as well. But the idea is I still feel very proud to see him on the stage. And the fact that the BBC even signposted it yesterday as well, they mentioned it in post coverage that he was the first player of Pakistani heritage playing the World Cup, just makes you so proud as well. And even I was speaking to my mum yesterday, and even she felt proud by it as well. And it does mean so much. It might not mean a lot to everyone else, but for us it means so much, and hopefully it is a catalyst for future generations to see that happen, to see Iqbal or see Singh on the back of a shirt at a big stage. It matters, trust me. That visibility and that identity really matters when you see it on a big stage. And it might not be for everyone here, but there is a kid out there who's seen that. And he or she is going to reference that in 10, 20 years' time when they're hopefully in their career. So that's why I think it's such a seismic moment. And I'm just so delighted to be covering it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a United fan as well, a little birdie told me, it must mean a lot to you. How does it compare to when he played that first Champions League game for United back in 2021?
Yes, I think it was possibly against Young Boys who came on. I think that was the only moment that Ralph Ragnick, who was the coach at the time, actually did that was good in his entire time at Man United. No, that was super special. Seeing him come on and just play and just be like, he's one of our own and he's on the pitch. And then last night, him playing for Iraq and coming on, I think it was bittersweet. I only say that because I'm just being a bit pernickety, but the coverage, whoever the producer was in the back room showing the coverage of that, they put a lot of focus on Marco as a player coming on at the same time. They talked about Zidane Iqbal, they explained about who he was and him coming on, but visually they didn't show any of that. So I was a bit annoyed, a little bit. But still, no, a really proud moment and a really good thing. And he's a class player. I mean, saw him pinging the ball around. He knows exactly what he's done. Obviously, he's had great education at United. And I just hope... this World Cups, we always see them as shop windows for players anyway. So I'm hope somebody picks him up. I'd love to see him back in the Prem at some point.
Well, look, don't worry about it because you've got Miriam off to the US, like doing big things. So she'll be making sure she's spotlighting all of them stories. Now, no shade on the Men's World Cup. Obviously, we're loving it. But I would like to focus on the women for just a second. And I wonder for you, Layla, as we look at the journey of South Asian women in sport and in football, what's it been like over the years? What can you tell us, like the behind the scenes of it?
I think the amount of South Asian players now in women's football, it is growing like slightly, but it's still not where you'd think it would be. From when I started, I was the only South Asian girl in my age group in the academies, and now you're seeing more and more, well, the odd one or two in an academy system, which is really nice to see. But playing for Pakistan and seeing the girls that have come from America, Canada, the UK, it just goes to show like we've all come together for this one nation of over like 250 million plus people, and we've all come together to represent. And it's amazing. But I hope in like 10 years' time, we're not having the conversation about the lack of representation. We're having the conversation about how much representation there is. Like how Zidane is the first ever Pakistani heritage player in the World Cup, I don't know, because you'd just think that that's already a thing. But I think it's still a long way to go, but I think we're getting there slowly.
And how was it being sort of like the only one before the stuff that happened with Pakistan? What was that like for you?
I think hard. I think finding who you are as a person is quite hard because you're surrounded by loads of white girls in a football team and you feel just that little bit different. But I think for me, like I'm quite a headstrong person and I just get on with it. But it was hard at times when you looked around or you looked on the in the media and you looked at the WSL and there wasn't anyone from South Asian heritage playing at all that you could look up to. It was hard, but I think that sort of drove me more to be that person that wants to show little girls that you can be South Asian, be Muslim, be from mixed heritage and play sport, and we can play it quite well as well. So yeah.
Well, yes, we absolutely can. And the thing is, there's like very practical things that also come with your culture and your faith as well. So I'm just alluding to a video that you did about wearing leggings. Yeah. So for the podcast that I did, which was about swimming, it was really hard because I'm doing it was a TV thing on the BBC as well, and I'm learning to swim. And there was a decision that I had to make about what I was going to wear. Now, I was born and bred here. I wear a normal swimming costume. There is no way on this green earth that my father is going to be okay, who was born in Pakistan, with me going on the telly, gallivanting around with my armpits out, let alone my kneecaps. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to happen. So then I had this real dilemma of like, oh, okay, I'm going to wear something more covered up for this thing, but that's really hard for me because that's not what I normally wear. But I know that I'm trying to appeal to as many people as possible to show that you can learn to swim and you can wear some leggings and you can learn, and leggings ain't going to stop you type thing. It's a very small thing possibly on the surface, but actually it is something, especially in a sport where you're used to seeing people wearing shorts, for example, that actually can stir up a conversation, which is something you spoke about on your socials. Tell us.
Yeah, so I wear leggings. Well, I decided to wear leggings when I was about 14, 15, I'd say. But it's a thing that I was really thinking about and contemplating for a couple of years. But because no one else did, I just didn't want the questions. I didn't want the looks. I didn't want, people asking questions. But to be honest, I think it's the best thing I did. I feel a lot more comfortable. And I think modesty as a Muslim is a journey. So I think that was a bit of a step for me. But yeah, it was really difficult to begin with. I got stares, I got loads of questions. But now it's just the norm. I'm the girl that wears leggings and plays football. I'm so happy that I did end up doing it and make that decision so I can feel more comfortable.
Great, and well done you for sticking by your guns, you know what I mean? And for the other girls that are going to be like, oh yeah, it's literally so normal to wear leggings because Layla does it, so it's not an unusual thing. It's so important. It's so important. Okay, let's talk about this book you got going on, Amar. Trying to meet Pele, you met Pele, all this Maradona situation. I know the few of you might have already heard it before a moment ago with the previous panel, but for anyone who hasn't, it's fascinating.
So where do I start? Okay, so when I was a kid, I had this dream that when watching the World Cup as a kid, I thought it'd be really cool if I got to meet these people in real life once upon a time. Grew up, forgot about the dream, and then World Cup 2010, Adidas produced this historical look back set of balls from 1970 to 2006, and I just knew I had to have them. Because growing up with all the balls being made in Pakistan, there was only two things I ever got from Pakistan for presents. One I asked for, the other one I didn't ask for. So traditional Pakistani dress, shalwar kameez was what I didn't ask for, and I would get in various colours. And then the other thing I asked for was a football, because footballs were made there. So 2011, 2012, I got this collection, and I was sat there at home thinking, what should I do with this collection now that I've got it? And then I just thought, hang on, why don't I just try and find World Cup winners to sign them? And then once I'd kind of said it, it was like, gonna have to do it now. So then I just set out to find World Cup winners to sign the balls. Very thankful and grateful that I managed to do it. And I met Pele. And then we got some other icons signing, like Maradona. Ronaldo, the original Brazilian R9 Ronaldo, and then a few others over the last 40, 50 years. And then the book was a long time coming, so it had been about 10 years, and I said, I'm going to have to write the book now. So I sat down, got the book done, and got it published last year.
Well, huge congratulations. Gosh, you've got all the wins. Miriam signing contracts, you're publishing books, you're playing for Pakistan. Honestly, it's fantastic. Listen, though, what was it actually like to meet your heroes? They say don't meet your heroes, right? What was it actually like?
It was actually all right. They do say don't meet your heroes, and there's a couple of instances in the book that I talk about which didn't go as well as I thought they could have done, but I'm not taking any responsibility for that. I'm just going to leave you to read in the book. It was really odd. Like, I'll use Pele as the example, that I've gone to meet Pele and I'm sat with him like we're sat together now, and he's looking at me like, who is this guy? And I'm looking back at him like, this is Pele. And it was a bit of a challenge internally to be like, man, I'm sat here with like 3-time World Cup winner icon, all the plaudits, global icon. And I had to really compose myself and just really be like, look, he's just a normal guy. Just chat to him, sort of thing. So outside I was feeling very cool as a cucumber, but inside was a completely different story. But he was great. He was a lovely guy, and the whole time I was there, I was probably there for about 5 minutes. But I felt like I was there for ages. I felt like it was just two mates having a chat. I felt like I was in a bubble, and I wasn't bothered that the room was full of people. I wasn't bothered that the agent was giving me evils from the side of the room saying, wrap it up, and I didn't care because I was sat with Pele, and then, it was just a phenomenal experience.
I feel like there'll be so many incredible stories in the book, but also it feels like a bit of a roadmap on like how to be a hustler and like get into rooms and spaces no matter what, Yeah. Which I'm kind of getting that vibe from you.
Yeah, I think once I said I was going to do it, I did set myself some additional criteria. So you couldn't just sign a World Cup winner. It had to be somebody who played in the final. So that immediately reduces the amount of people you can go for. So like Thierry Henry, for example, couldn't sign a ball because he didn't play in the final in '98. So I'd already kind of kneecapped myself even more. But it was, at the start of it, I just said, "Look, I'm going to do this by any means necessary without getting arrested." It was the main thing. And I just went for it, and I was very surprised and grateful at how accommodating a lot of people were. I could never do it without some of the conversations, some of the door openers that did it. There were times, where I stuck into places and I had no purpose to be there, and eventually I got kicked out. But I didn't care because it was just so fun.
I mean, and the memory and the story that you can tell after it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a big question, but I'm curious from the perspectives that we have, which are also quite different. You mentioned 5 players of South Asian heritage, not even Pakistani, South Asian heritage playing in the World Cup, which I don't know about you, Miriam, but I feel a bit conflicted by that figure. I feel like why is there literally 5 people? Like, and can we just take a moment? South Asia, sorry, what countries are in South Asia? We have India, we have Pakistan, we have Bangladesh,
Sri Lanka,
we have Sri Lanka,
Bhutan, Nepal.
Okay, so that's not even 1 per country.
Yeah.
That's mad. That's actually crazy. So what do you think, from your perspective, would be the biggest thing that could make a difference when it comes to that representation on a world stage? What do we need to do?
It sounds like a simple question, and the answer is very complex, but I'm going to try and narrow it down. I think from a South Asian perspective, I think the problem we're seeing with the South Asian nations when it comes to football is there's a lack of structure, there's a lack of organizations, there's a lack of long-term thinking. And one country they should definitely look to and be inspired by is Japan, because Japan have a 100-year plan to win the World Cup in 2092. And that all started. They started the J League in 1991, and then they said, right, it was going well, and then it started to have some kind of economic issues, and they said, look, in order for us to really compete on the world stage and have a domestic product that's good, but also have players that can compete, we need to have this long-term vision. And you see the way they're competing. They're regulars at the World Cup. They get to Asian Cup to the last 4 on a regular basis. Even the women's team is doing very well as well. The whole idea is they have a long-term thought process, a plan, a vision, and a succession plan. What we find in South Asia is you'll have one guy will come in and he's got like 10 people trying to get rid of him. And then he goes, and then you rip up everything that's happened, and you start all over again. And then along comes a FIFA ban because they're thinking there's too much instability going on, so we're going to ban you from the world stage for 3-4 years. And this happened to Pakistan recently.
This sounds like politics in Pakistan, doesn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, it's reflective. It's reflective of anything that's happening in the instability of some of these nations. Is what happens across different industries, and especially in sport. And it's not. There is talent, there's potential, but then you have to harness that talent. You have to be able to create opportunities for them, and it's a numbers game as well. You need a huge volume to come in at the beginning. You need to have infrastructure for youngsters and grassroots. Now, you're talking about what will happen, say, 10, 20 years' time. I live in hope, and I have a very kind of positive outlook with things that if it hasn't been done, it can still be done, and that's the way I've done everything. Even when I started this platform 16 years ago, people saying, why? Like, what's the point of it? There's a point, and there's a point right now. And if my outlook is that in 20 years' time, I'd hope that the numbers will be in double figures, hopefully triple figures. And I'm going to play my part in that, of course. But in reality is, if we don't get the infrastructure right, if there's not a plan in place for the kids that are being born today, we won't have that kind of process or output in 20 years' time. So something has to be put in place today actively and then followed through for things to change. So that's where we're at the moment.
Long-term strategy. I feel like you should be the top consultant for it as well. Okay, so let's take a moment. Just imagine a world where we do have a South Asian team, full-on team, not just Layla, full team, playing at a World Cup. How do you think that would make you feel, Layla?
Playing at a World Cup is literally a dream, isn't it, for like every young girl, boy that wants to play football. So I think definitely we have the ability, like the Pakistan women's national team has the ability to do that and qualify. I think within the next 10, 15 years, we will be there.
Yes,
100%.
sis, that's what we want to hear. Okay, Miriam, how do you think it would feel for you, a moment like that, to see a full South Asian team competing at a World Cup?
Depends what team it is.
Okay, it's Pakistan. Obviously,
If it's
come on,
India.
of course it's Pakistan. No, it's Pakistan.
We're the same people. I think if I think it would literally be the best day of my life. I'm so sorry to my fiance who sat there.
Not the wedding.
I think it would be, like the best day of my life. I think how I feel when I watch England play, with like a complex relationship to England and being English, but I think especially under Southgate, like how I felt when they've got to finals and semi-finals, and even the women winning, the Euros 2 times in a row, like that. I don't feel like any real connection to the women's England team, because I think there's a lot of like issues with race and women's football in this country, but I'm still, that feeling you get when you watch them play and you watch them win, like I still feel that. So I think if it was Pakistan, it would be like that on steroids. Like I can't even fathom it, really. I think the closest I can come to it is Arshad Nadeem and his Olympic record. And famously, I did get a tattoo, so who knows what I'd do.
She's going to be inked all over. She's going to have all their names up and down into her armpits and everywhere else. How about you? How do you think you would feel having a South Asian team compete on the world stage like that?
If it's Pakistan, then I'll probably start saying Pakistan, because that's just like how it would be. It would just be amazing. I think I've not really thought about it too hard, because it's something that feels like it's way off. It just feels like such a massive dream. And, we're talking about emulating the likes of Japan, and obviously there's a need for a hot evil and everything else. I think the immense joy will be another level. I think it's just kind of like, people will say it's greater than having kids, or getting married, or any iconic moment in your life. I think it's going to be up there. And then I don't know what I'd have to sell to actually get to see them. I'd probably sell my kids, to be honest.
You'd sneak in.
Yeah, or I'd sneak in.
You wouldn't be selling anything.
No,
You'd be hustling in. We'd be all trying to get in, and you'll be like, "Oh, I've got tickets. I'm already there."
I'll just pretend I'm a Pakistani diplomat and just worm my way in. Yeah.
Well, I think it just goes to show. I mean, the closest thing was Arshad Nadeem from my point of view as well, and I think there would just be tears. It would not be a pretty view. It'd be just visceral emotion. That kind of like snotty cry. Yeah, it'd be a bit of a snotty cry situation, I think. Okay, so a question for everyone. England are playing later. We're thick in World Cup fever. What is a World Cup memory that has stayed with you forever, Miriam?
Oh. Can I say a Women's World Cup?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, of course I can. It's our podcast. Sorry. Watching the final of the last World Cup in Australia. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say watching the semi-final, because England played Australia, and Sam Kerr, who is the Australian captain and like a hero of mine because she's half Indian, like watching her play on that level was probably actually the closest we'll ever come to what we just talked about. So, yeah, that was crazy. I low-key wanted Australia to win, which felt weird, but I was like, no, it's not Australia, it's Sam Kerr. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the best, one of the best 2 hours of my life.
The loyalty is real, right? Okay, what about you? World Cup memory, have you got one for us?
I'm going to say last World Cup, the final. What a final, honestly. Watching that was just great. It just goes to show, like, football is such a, like, it can change within, 10 minutes. So, yeah, I think watching that game was amazing and just showed me why I love football.
Great. What have we got? Where are we going next?
I'm going to take it back to the 90s. I'm going to go to 1994, when the last time USA held the World Cup, the final, Brazil versus Italy. One of my favourite players when I was growing up was Roberto Baggio, and he missed the penalty and Brazil won the World Cup, and that was such a heartbreaking moment, and it's lived with me forever.
Layla wasn't born at that point.
Yeah, neither was I. It's a fantastic year, though, 1994. Just, yeah, it's really bringing it back. And finally, World Cup memory.
Well, I was going to take it back even further, and
dear,
now I'm kind
go
of
on.
in two minds on whether I should. Mexico 86, England, Argentina, quarterfinal, the infamous hand of God,
Maradona.
and then the most iconic, beautiful goal ever scored in the history of the game, both by Maradona. That was probably the one that shaped me and made me go on this mad quest. But yeah, that was my first World Cup as a kid.
Okay, final question for all of you. We're a little bit tight for time, but that's okay. I think we can do it in a couple of sentences each. Imagine we're sitting here in 10 years' time, in a decade, what do you hope has changed about football and South Asian representation? Let's go over here first. What do you hope has changed?
Again,
2 sentences.
a simple question, but such a complex answer. But come back to me.
Come back to you. Okay, Layla.
I hope that we're not having the conversation, like I said earlier, that there is just South Asian representation throughout football, playing for England, playing for Pakistan, playing for, any country. And I think that, I hope that, especially in the women's game, there's more of that coming through the grassroots, the academy systems, all that. And yeah, I just hope there's more South Asian representation out there.
Great. It's a hard question. I'll answer it as well. More Laylas. So there's my one. Miriam.
I hope there's more education in the UK so that some of the stereotypes and misconceptions that currently exist do not exist, because I genuinely believe they are holding people back more than anything.
What have you got for me, big man?
I can't really top that one because it is really important, this whole concept of educating and understanding. I think understanding the cultures that we're from and how that then positively or negatively impacts people's ambitions and trajectories in the game. But yeah, as with everybody else says, more representation at the highest level.
Got about a minute left.
I hope to be celebrating 25 years of my platform and talking about the successes that we had over the last 25 years. So I'm going to make it personal for me.
Brilliant stuff. And that is all we have time for. Can we get a big round of applause, please, for Miriam Walker-Khan, sports journalist and broadcaster, and the boss queen behind Brown Girls Sport, Zahid Rashid from Desi Ballers, Amar Shah from Among Good People, and Pakistan national team footballer Layla Benares. I've been Sumaya Mughal. Thank you so much for your time. Have a gorgeous afternoon.